Is it? OK. Oh, yeah, one moment, because this is the setup. OK, there we go. Well, today, well, right now I'm working right now. My main project right now is ZISC. ZISC is a ZKVM. It's based on it's in a project inside Polygon, and it's a Polygon. It's a ZKVM. It's a technology that's trying to prove things in real time. ZK has been a technology that has been evolved a lot during the last years. Okay? But today in my presentation, I want to talk to a new technology. It's a technology that's not even ready right now, but it's kind of what's coming next after ZK. Okay? And this is like the holy grail of cryptography. It's a technology that's called obfuscation. Maybe many of you have heard at some point that cryptography by obfuscation doesn't work. This is a thing that you may hear about. Okay, but actually, well, there are some recent papers that it's been proved that at least it's solvable. We don't have a solution for that, but I want to present, and I'm explicitly, I want to talk about the applications. What can you do? So what's this technology, and what can you do? Seen from the application perspective, and why this technology can be important in the near future. Okay. So what's really obfuscation? Obfuscation is even, I would say, it's even much more simple than ZK. When the first time that you hear about ZK, it's kind of magic, and you don't really understand what's going on. But obfuscation is very simple. What we are doing in obfuscation is we are taking a program, a deterministic program, with an input and output, okay? And we are like obfuscating. We are like compiling. So the way that, okay, this program, is like, imagine that you compile. When you compile, you cannot see what's inside. But imagine that's a cryptographic compilation. It's something that you cannot learn anything of what's inside the box. Of course, you can execute it. You have an input, you have an output. But if you are trying to see the code, that is compiled code, you cannot learn anything. You cannot see anything. So you put an input, you just execute some commands, and in the output magically appears something that's equivalent. It's the same that this program. Okay? And the important part of this obfuscation is that also this program can have a private key that nobody knows. In this process of obfuscation, this private key is generated, and nobody knows this private key. It's a private key that's in there. You can execute programs against this private key, but nobody can discover and can see this private key. So this is very much what's obfuscation at high level. You see, that's very simple. You are obfuscating a program. You're just hiding a program, and with a private key, which is really important. It's probably the most important part of this system. Okay? So let's see if you have, assume that this is working. Okay? So, okay, what can you do with this? Okay? Well, you can do everything in cryptography. Okay? As an example, for example, you can do very easily a ZK. But the ZK, how would you do it? Okay, well, you have a program, whatever you want to prove. The same program that you are using in ZK. You obfuscate it, you put it here. You have a private key that nobody knows, but private key you don't know, but this you may have a public key that's already known. Okay, this private key can generate the public key, so the public key everybody knows, but the private key doesn't know. So the idea is that, okay, you get any input, you execute that, and if this program happens, if it's okay, you just take the public output, or if it's the public output that is valid, then you just sign this public input-output with the private key that's inside the box. So verifying the zero knowledge is verifying a signature. So you can have a full zero knowledge program, and instead of using some elliptic curves thing, you just do normal signature, and verifying it with a zero cover, you just get a signature, you get a zero knowledge. Okay, so even for something that's as simple as that, you have a lot of advantages here. Okay? What else you can do? Well, you can do easily full homomorphic encryption. I mean, homomorphic encryption means that you can, you want to do a computation, you are a computer, a trustless computer, so I get my data, I encrypt the data, I give to you, the computer just executes that in an encrypted form, it returns me the result, and then I decrypt it, okay? Well, you can have this program embedded in one of these obfuscated box, okay, that's running in some computer away, and then what I do is just I encrypt the program with the private key of the box. The computer executes this box, whatever. Of course, the program re-encrypts that, and it gives me the result to me. Okay, so it's quite straightforward doing full homomorphic encryption if you have this technology. Actually, there is Witness encryption is even simple. Because witness encryption is like full homomorphic encryption, but the result can be decrypted. It's already decrypted in the right way. This decryption is on that way. Why witness encryption is important? Well, let's just do, for example, some interesting applications, something that we cannot do now. Okay? But for example, imagine that I get some content, some image or some video that's encrypted with a key, okay? With a normal cryptographic key. Okay? And I want to set up a system, a decentralized system that whoever sends some money to some smart contract, they get automatically the decryption key of that file without having a centralized server. Well, you would do it this way. In this box, so you encrypt the key with some private key or some derivation of this private key. You encrypt the file, and then in this box, actually, you do a verification. You can execute, or you can just verify SDK verifier. So you prove that you send some money to some smart contract, and then if this happens, the code of this program says that if this happens, then it gets the private, it reveals the key or the derivation of this private key. So you can do that. You can set up that. You can just encrypt a file, put it in IPFS or somewhere else, and set up a smart contract. Is whoever solves this puzzle or whoever send me some money here or whatever, then it will get automatically the decryption key of that, and forget about that. You can signatures of the DAO. This is very much the same. So imagine that a DAO, a smart contract, okay? But smart contracts cannot really sign things. They can, a zero knowledge of that something, that the transaction has been happened, or that some event has emitted some event, it could be understood as a signature. But actually, they cannot maybe sign something for a bank or something in a third-party system. Well, with this system, you could. And the schema is very much the same. You prove something, you execute something, you prove something, and if this is correct, if this smart contract goes to a certain way, then if you are proving that this is correct, then you will sign something, maybe just sending some funds or doing some signature here. Okay, so this technology allows easily to do these things. Another interesting thing is Bitcoin breaching, or Bitcoin, if you want, double pegging, without forking Bitcoin, which is interesting. How would it work? Well, the idea is that you send funds to some Bitcoin address, and it's a Bitcoin address is managed by this private key that nobody knows, this private key, but it has an address, it has a public key, so it has an address. So you send the funds there. Of course, you go into Ethereum or to other chain, you generate the tokens, the wrapped tokens, whatever. But then when you are sending back, how you recover the funds? Because this private key is don't know. Well, in this case, if you prove that in Ethereum you have been born, you burn the keys, then this box will sign a sending transaction that will send you back the transaction. So with this, you can have a decentralized bridge with Bitcoin without having to fork anything about Bitcoin. This works from Bitcoin to Ethereum, because Ethereum is proof of stake, and then it's final. Okay? If the other chain is not final, then this system doesn't work. But in this case, from Bitcoin to Ethereum, this system would definitively work. And for any two systems that has this concept of finality, this application would work. What else? Well, multi-party FHE. I mean, that's very simple. I mean, if you want to do any computation of, I mean, many of you have different data, okay? But you want to keep this data private, okay? And we want to do some computation of this data, and the result of this computation be selectively shared with some individuals. Well, this is quite obvious. I mean, everybody gets his data. It would encrypt this information with it would encrypt this information with I mean, with the public key of this box. Okay, they would send this box will decrypt this information, do whatever computation, take the results, and re-encrypt them. These results encrypted with the different keys according to the rules that you can do. But you can do that. Actually, I mean, the cool thing is that you can do that in a single round. I mean, you can do just executing that, which is, I think, is a really cool application. For this, I mean, there is one related application related to that. For example, is for medical data. Imagine a system that you can publish your medical data, but your medical data is encrypted with something that nobody knows, but you know that this medical data can be used for a given specific programs. Okay, so you keep the privacy, but if for some certain programs that maybe they aggregate data or they do some correlations or some limited computation on this data, then this is workable. Okay, so it allows you to work in, I mean, to see in that direction in this privacy for multi-party computations. Voting. I mean, voting at the end is, well, it's a generic of a private state thing, but the idea I mean, let's go for the private state first. I mean, the private state at the end is, I mean, private state is, for example, what Aztec is doing or these things. The idea is, I mean, right now the Ethereum has a public state, so everybody knows what's in the public state, but imagine that this state is private, okay? So that nobody knows, it's encrypted somehow. Well, you can get the transactions. Maybe the transactions can be encrypted so that nobody knows what you are executing. And you have this box, and this box, mainly what's doing is, okay, is decrypting the transaction, decrypting the state, executing the transaction on this state that's already decrypted, re-encrypting the state, and maybe putting some output that can be free, that can be open or not. Okay? So with this technology, having private blockchains is trivial. I mean, it's natural to have. Voting is very much the same, because in voting is, I mean, you get this, you have a private state, which is the results of the voting, and you want to keep them private. So you get your vote, which are your transactions, and this box would decrypt the vote, actually do the summation, addition, or the checks, verification, whatever is done in this box, and at the end, encrypting the state for next pass, or you get a receipt from the user that's also encrypting the state. Okay, and you can use that for doing normal voting. Okay. Anonymous identity. I mean, this is a super interesting application. Is right now, for example, if you want to use your passport to vote, to generate a nullifier, actually, I mean, well, with some passwords you can, but in general you cannot, because signatures are not deterministic in there. Okay, so you cannot have an identity. So I mean, you want to have an identity that's usable only for one unique application. With that, you can do that, and the idea of this anonymous identity is that, okay, you prove that you hold the passport, and if you prove that you hold the passport, this box will generate a deterministic key. I mean, a key that's based only on the private key, the application, and the ID. It's going to be hash is derived from that, and this is going to give you a nullifier. A nullifier, in general, you want to sign this nullifier because you want to verify that this nullifier belongs to this identity. But this will give you a specific number that's attached to one ID, to one application ID. Okay, and you can generate. I mean, with just using normal IDs, you can use this to generate these unique numbers from identities. Okay? This is just a small number. I mean, this is a small example, but there is a bunch of much more other applications that you can do with this technology. Actually, I mean, you can solve things. For example, doing Bitcoin rollups. This is quite obvious on that. You don't need, and what I'm saying Bitcoin rollups means Bitcoin without having to fork Bitcoin. Yeah? But it's because you are converting, you can convert, I mean, you can use normal cryptography having this box, okay? In terms of setup, there is games, games that you need to hide some state, some common state, but that nobody needs to know about that. This technology applies very much. As you can see, all these applications do not think that you need obfuscation for doing these applications. I mean, for doing ZK, you don't need obfuscation. What I'm trying to say here is that if you solve obfuscation, actually you have everything solved. I mean, for a lot of these protocols, there are probably more simple protocols that may work, so that they may work, okay? But this is the nice thing of this technology is that it allows you to, if we solve this, it's like we solve like almost everything. This together with blockchains, with consensus, I think it solves a lot of the things, okay? This is why sometimes this is called, it's the God computer, or if you want to be more politically correct, omnipresent trusted computer, okay? Because it's like, it's not a service. It's a computer that everybody can run. This thing, okay? So it's a computer that's everywhere, and actually is God because it has a key that nobody knows, but it can execute things on that, okay? So it's the nice thing of this protocol, okay? And what's the current state of the art? Well, the current state of the art is, I would say, it's a little bit depressing. Okay, and that's why that's why my interest in is to give this talk is because at this point there is less than 10 researchers that actually working on this. Okay, I think we need to improve that. So that's I want to give awareness of the importance of this technology and the quantity of things that you can solve and how much we may need this. And the effort, currently the effort, if you compare the number of ZK researchers that we have right now compared to the numbers of people that's working in this problem, is really low, okay? Here, there are some interesting ideas that coming, some about local mixing. I think that there is, my colleague Jay is doing a presentation about local mixing in 1 hour or so, some in another room. If you are interested, you can go there. But but there are other interests and a lot of paths that has not been explored. Okay, and what's clear is that can be solved. Well, you know how mathematicians work, okay? If you go for mathematicians, they say that a hash just is random oracle and just does not work. But actually, a hash works, okay? So, and it has been proved that with these probabilistic things, this is technically, it's mathematically possible that this will happen. So of course, it's an open problem. There are a lot of new ideas that are coming, and a lot of fields that has not been explored. Okay, and here I would, if any researchers in the room or people that has contact with researchers, I think this is something that should be put more effort in trying to achieve. Okay, just this is just want to give you a high overview of, for example, how. If we have this technology, how we would create a normal, we call it an IOBM, it's something that's a generic computer like that. So, and the idea is, well, if you have this box, actually we don't have a box that's doing specific things. Actually, we can have a box that's able to execute any obfuscation program on that. And at the end, it's just doing a clock, a processor clock. Okay, so the idea is that you have a state. The processor at the end is a state machine, so you have a state that's encrypted. Then this box just decrypts, executes one instruction, and then encrypts the state. Okay, so with this you can have what would be a IOBM. Okay, this is a little bit more complex because you need memory. So maybe a memory can be like another box and is doing all this, oblivious memory, so that you don't know even what you are accessing and what you are not accessing. And the last slide, probably you will need some free input and free output, so just to have. But the idea here is that you can, if we solve this even at relatively low level, you can have I mean, let's say a universal VM box that can execute everything in an obfuscated way. Okay, and this, I mean, in the future, maybe this I/O box can be embedded in an ASIC, or in a hardware embedded, so that can be executed. Maybe 1,000 times or 1 million times slower than you would execute a normal processor, but actually, for encrypting one transaction, you don't need much. If you combine that with ZK and things, you don't need huge programs to be running that for being useful. Okay. So that's the presentation. I think it's a cool tech. I wanted you to know that this is something that's happened.
Yeah, thank you, Jordi, for this. Actually, I was working in this field like 15 years ago. Okay. And from the paper from Barak, I'm sure you already know that paper. He proved that black box virtual obfuscation is impossible, theoretically. And after that, I just stopped working on the field.
This has been overcome, and actually has been proved that it's very much like the random oracle dilemma. Okay, so it's possible, assuming
without having a hardware component like TPM, right?
Yeah, so I'm not. Yeah, maybe Jay, you want to answer that? He's more.
So the proof only works for very contrived programs, like self-feeding programs. You can have general black box obfuscation, and it's just that, like when you have cryptographic proofs, it's just that proof is only for very, very contrived programs, not for like general programs. So, like that paper doesn't say that you cannot have black box obfuscation.
But said that, it's a hard problem. It's not. So what I'm saying that there is only 10 persons. Yeah, that's why 10 people is probably because maybe it's a too difficult problem to solve. Probably here the normal path of cryptography is, we started with ZK. Maybe the next step is full homomorphic encryption, and maybe next step is obfuscation. So maybe just that's let's say the natural highway to go to this tech. And here is a controversy, and this is but I have the intuition that there could be shortcuts to obfuscation. That's my intuition. Most of the people in the research don't agree with me, okay? But that's just telling.
Hey, thanks for the talk. Excuse the new questions. What are the main differences between a TE and this obfuscation? Because it sounds like it achieves the same thing, but at maybe different.
The encryption, the witness encryption. With obfuscation? ZK. Yeah. Oh, no, ZK is, you are proving, here is, so in ZK you are proving a computation. Okay? So you have a computation and you prove that this computation is correct without having to execute the computation. Okay? In this, what we are doing is we are hiding a program. We are obfuscating a program. Okay? We are talking about programs, okay? Because when we are proving the execution of a program, and the other is we are executing the program in an obfuscated way, okay? So that's why, this is much stronger, okay? So this obfuscation is much, if you get this, you get ZK automatically. Because, if you can execute obfuscated programs, that means that you can prove the programs, okay? In ZK, you are just proving. So the idea is that you are shortcutting. Proving that you execute a program, the easiest way is you re-execute the program. This is the trivial way. And the only thing that ZK is doing is reducing. Is this succinct part. It's just reducing the effort that needs to do the verifier in order to verify a computation. Okay. In this case, what we are doing is anybody can execute a program, but nobody knows what's inside the program. Actually, the important part is not the obfuscation of the program. The important part for most applications is the obfuscation of the key that's holding the program. So actually, a lot of times the program is known and is you know what's executed. You want this to be known, okay? But the important part is that you cannot learn anything about the key that's using the program in there, okay? Which is, I mean, from the technical perspective, is not exactly. I mean, it's a less restrictive thing that if you want to do a full obfuscation. Okay? But these are details on what you want to solve. But I mean, if you solve this obfuscation of the key with this, most of the application that I've been talking about, it's already solved. You get it. It's just as an. Well, I think that we're time over. But a lot of people has tried. I mean, a lot of engineers have been trying to do obfuscation, okay, but all this is broken. Okay, so we're talking about real obfuscation. I mean, it's a cryptographic obfuscation. Okay.
We have at least 5 more minutes, so let's go on with the questions.
Okay.
I'm sorry if this is a hi.
I don't know where you are. Oh, here. Okay.
Sorry if this is like a silly question, but so with ZK, you can have a program running publicly on the blockchain, and you hide the inputs, like you can verify.
Yeah.
But here, this is kind of the opposite, right? Because you can't really, like, as is run, like for example, the verify, like the decryptive upon verification that you showed. Like I sell a book, it's encrypted, and when someone pays, it's decrypted. This can't live on chain currently, even if the tech existed, right? Because the book is encrypted, it's on chain, someone pays and it's decrypted and it's sent plain text, clear text to the person, right? So
you need a central party.
So,
but the thing is that this is without a central party. I mean, it's without a server that's giving to you the key.
Yeah. So I'm asking, like, where do you imagine this running? Because if I run the obfuscated code and I have access to the inputs and outputs, then I can learn a lot just by running it locally with inputs and looking at the outputs, right? So you have a...
If it's well obfuscated, you cannot learn anything about the program. Actually, the important part is that you cannot learn the key. So you have a program that inside is the key, but even executing a lot of times with different inputs, you cannot. I mean, doing anything, messing around of what you are doing there, it's impossible to learn anything about the key. And this is the difficulty of the program. I mean, it's not an obvious program, but there is ways. I mean, actually we know, we know algorithms that they work. The problem is that they are not practical. I mean, maybe there are some algorithms that it takes like something like 2 to the 27 years. I mean, it's a good start, but I mean, it's not anything practical. But it's possible. And I'm convinced that there are ways to do that in a practical manner. I mean, I'm talking in something that, I don't know, maybe it's a breakthrough, okay, but I'm not talking something that's available right now, but it's something that I'm convinced that's going to be available at some point.
Hello. What are then the the recent advances that make you confident?
Well, there is, I would say I mentioned two. One is the one that you mentioned, that there are some mathematical proofs that the problem is solvable. I mean, because there was a proof that it was not solvable, okay? But actually this has been proof that you can solve it in a assuming different way. So that's one thing. And the other is, and this is local obfuscations or things like that. There are, there is one technique that's this local obfuscation that's very much is just taking the quantum computing theory about how the circuits are generated that way, and using those circuits and doing some DNS. You have a program in you convert with gates. Okay, so machine convert with gates, but in this case it's reversible gates. Okay, so with that you have a way of, let's say, expanding. Creating more random gates and mixing them. Okay, and it's what we call local mixing. And this intuitively, it's like by mixing the program, you are hiding the program. Okay, and if you do that in the right way. There are ways to that this could be obfuscated. This has been proved already that, I mean, depending how you do it, is not correct, okay? So it's like, but there is some research that's going in that direction that makes me feel optimistic, because with this kind of algorithms, thinking in a, let's say, 1 to 1,000 a slowing down of the computations just by going obfuscation, it would be possible. I mean, it's in the research, but there are some papers, especially coming from some, let's say, new research departments. I mean, all these papers, for example, come from people that come from the physics and quantum computing things that are introducing new ideas that comes from different fields that, let's say, the more cryptographic people is thinking in, I mean, it's a start looking at that and maybe thinking in with different perspective. And this looks like there is something there, okay? But, I mean, it's just a smelling. We need to see, and this is a lot of hard work of many researchers. But we need more. I mean, that's, we need more researchers. Okay, let's keep it here. Thank you very much.